Well, that tends to confirm my own ideas, said Franz. That the Countess's suspicions were destitute alike of sense and reason. Did he speak in your hearing? And did you catch any of his words? I did, but they were uttered in the Romaic dialect. I knew that from the mixture of Greek words. I don't know whether I ever told you that when I was in college I was rather strong in Greek. He spoke the Romaic language, did he? I think so. That settles it, murmured Franz. 'Tis he, past all doubt. What did you say? Nothing, but tell me, what were you thinking about when I came in? Oh, I was arranging a little surprise for you. Indeed, of what nature? Why, you know it is quite impossible to procure a carriage. Certainly. And I also know that we have done all that human means afforded to endeavor to get one. Now, then, in this difficulty, a bright idea has flashed across my brain. Franz looked at Albert as though he had not much confidence in the suggestions of his imagination. I tell you what, Monsieur Franz, cried Albert, you deserve to be called out for such a misgiving and incredulous glance as that you were pleased to bestow on me just now. And I promise to give you the satisfaction of a gentleman, if your scheme turns out to be as ingenious as you assert. Well then, hearken to me. I listen. You agree, do you not, that obtaining a carriage is out of the question? I do. Neither can we procure horses. True. We have offered any sum, but have failed. Well now, what do you say to a cart? I dare say such a thing might be had. Very possibly. And a pair of oxen? As easily found as the cart. Franz and Albert are finding a way around, getting to and fro throughout Carnival, foregoing the idea of a carriage, but now looking at a cart. My mind went to a couple different places. Are they going to be carted around like a chariot? Or like a hay cart? Like there's Steve Martin and John Candy in the back of the pickup truck and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? But let's keep digging into what Albert is saying about Dante here. Albert saying that he had overheard a little bit of what Dante was saying, but most of it was uttered in the Romaic dialect, but he knew that from the mixture of Greek words. So Dante, as we've known to this point, is multilingual. He speaks Italian with the Romaic dialect, French, obviously. He's mixing in some Greek words, so he's throwing Greek in there. We knew all this from his time with the Abbe Faria, but seems like he didn't allow his studies to go by the wayside. Funny, though, that Franz lets go what Albert actually heard him say. He just logs that Dante was speaking with the Romaic dialect or language and acknowledges that Dante is Dante or Sinbad the Sailor, but he doesn't press Albert for what Greek words he heard him utter, which is surprising. I feel like at this point he would want all the information, but maybe Franz doesn't want to tip his hand for some reason. Oh, okay, look, listen, folks, this is real-time research I'm doing, and proof that you shouldn't trust me as an expert. I say that all the time, and here's proof of it. Romaic, I thought, was a Roman dialect of Italian, but it seems like, let me cross-reference this research I'm doing. Okay, so here's what I found. And it's kind of interesting, actually. This is a little language research for you. Romaic is a 19th century term for Greek. As I said, I thought it was Roman, the Rome dialect of Italian. But Romaic is referencing the more modern Greek dialect to differentiate it from ancient Greek dialect. And the Roman dialect, the Rome dialect of Italian, is actually Romanesco or Romano. And apparently, just a little side note that I saw on this other blog, that the Roman dialect, quote, sounds a bit rude and rustic. I think this would be like the Cockney accent in England. But the Romaic refers to the Greek spoken by the Romans, by the Byzantine. Get a little visit from my cat today. Sorry, I got distracted with that. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, Romaic dialect. Anyway, I don't need to go through all the other research, but just to prove that in real time, we learned something about what we read here on the show. Sorry if you hear all these extra sound effects because my cat's on my lap and she's about to jump off to go eat dinner. So that gives more credence to what Albert is saying here by saying, I don't know whether I ever told you that when I was in college, I was rather strong in Greek, which then begs the question even further as to why Franz isn't pressing Albert for what he overheard. Wait a minute. All right, I'm a little confused. I talked myself into a pretzel on this episode. I'm sorry, folks. Let's just read this one paragraph again. I did, but they were uttered in the Romaic dialect. I knew that from the mixture of Greek words. I don't know whether I ever told you that when I was at college, I was rather strong in Greek. To me, what Albert is suggesting there is that Greek is different than the Romaic dialect. So is there... This probably doesn't matter, Landon. We don't need to do this deep level of research. We need to just walk away with the narrative thing, which is... To me, reading that means that Albert didn't fully get everything that was being said. He only heard a few Greek words that he understood. But if Romaic is Greek, I'm a little confused on that, but I suppose I don't need to bother all of you with it. I'll just go figure that out for myself between episodes. Okay. Join me here tomorrow with a little bit more of chapter 34. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.